What's going to shape Texas over the next decade? More capital, more infrastructure, and continued pressure from global energy markets. At first glance, SpaceX, artificial intelligence, and the Middle East seem like completely separate stories, but here in Texas, all three connect because all three affect jobs, investment, housing, and long-term economic growth. I'm Kyle Grimshaw, and this is the Texas Market Brief. Good evening and welcome back. I'm Kyle Grimshaw with the Grimshaw Home Group. Today is Friday, June 12th, 2026. If you're a homeowner, investor, business owner, or simply trying to understand where Texas may be headed next, you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Let's start with capital. SpaceX priced the largest IPO in history this week, raising $75 billion and reaching a valuation roughly $1.77 trillion. And yes, that's stock market story, but it's also much bigger than that. Because when a company operating in Texas reaches that kind of scale, it says something important. It says capital is still flowing aggressively into innovation, infrastructure, manufacturing, and long-term growth. And in Texas, those investments don't stay on paper. They turn into facilities, suppliers, contractors, engineers, construction jobs, and over time, housing demand. That's what interests me most. Not what stocks do in a day, but what this kind of investment could mean for Texas over the next 10 years. That second force is labor. Meta recently announced a major workforce initiative tied to AI infrastructure, and Texas is one of the first states to be included. That matters because it tells us something a lot of people still do not understand. The AI boom is not only creating demand for software engineers, it's also creating demand for electricians, welders, fiber techs, HVAC techs, construction workers. Data centers need power. Power needs infrastructure. Infrastructure needs skilled labor. So one of the biggest technology waves in modern history may end up creating massive opportunity for the trades that many people have overlooked for years. And Texas is in a strong position to benefit from that. The third force is energy. Markets are still watching developments in the Middle East and asking the same basic question: what happens to oil? Because when oil prices move, Texas feels it. And when oil pushes inflation higher, the entire country feels it. That matters for consumers, it matters for business costs, and it matters for mortgage rates, because higher inflation expectations can push treasury yields higher, and treasury yields often influence the mortgage rates. So this is not just a geopolitical story. It is also a Texas economic story, because energy still plays an outsized role in this state, and it still has the power to affect everything from jobs to borrowing costs. Here's my take. If you want to understand where Texas is headed, you have to watch three things: where the capital is going, what kind of jobs are being created, and what energy markets are doing. That's the bigger picture. And I think Texas is uniquely positioned because all three of those forces are active here. We have capital flowing in, we have infrastructure being built, and we have population growth. And we still have one of the most important energy economies in the entire country. That does not mean everything will be easy though, but it does mean Texas is likely to remain one of the most important economic stories in America. Now let's bring this back to housing. Real estate follows jobs, real estate follows investment, and real estate follows confidence. Over time, it follows where opportunity is building. That's why these stories matter, because they may help shape where people move, where businesses expand, and where housing demand grows next. And if you live in Texas, that is worth paying attention to. If you found today's episode helpful, make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments, which of these three forces do you think will shape Texas the most over the next decade? Capital, labor, or energy? I'm Kyle Grimshaw with the Grimshaw Home Group. Thank you again for joining me for another episode of the Texas Market Brief. I'll see you Monday.